Hey guys, Chris from Provo Beast Audio Installation, and in today's video we're doing a tailgate handle camera on this 2012 Toyota Tundra. Now in this install we're going to show you how to integrate this new camera to an existing aftermarket radio. Let's get started. Couple of things to note in this install. This truck was not equipped with the camera previously. Sometimes there is an OEM camera in the rear view mirror, or if you have navigation, oftentimes there is a factory camera there as well. In this case, this is a more of a base trim that does not have a camera whatsoever. You can do a license plate mountable camera. That's a little bit easier to install, but this camera kit specifically will integrate into the bezel around the tailgate handle. Alright, so we're at the bench now. The kit we're going with is this Coconut kit. We've used this brand before and they actually work pretty well, especially for the price. And it more or less replaces the entire tailgate handle assembly with a new one, but it has the integrated camera built in, and that's what's super cool about this. Kind of has that OEM look and fit and finish. It bolts up in that same factory location, uses the same cables, rods, and hardware. You'll transfer over your key cylinder if equipped. Now additionally here, this camera gives you quite a bit of length, and on it too as well, it has some parking lines, so if you want to cancel those parking lines generated by the camera, you can cut one of these loops. It also comes with this long extension harness. This is what's going to carry the signal or image from what that camera sees all the way up into this case, an aftermarket radio. This is a JVC head unit which we've installed in the first video. So if you want to see that install and how to integrate a camera to an aftermarket radio, check out that first video. We'll walk you through a ton about that JVC. Now, in order to actually install and wire up your camera here, it comes with this extension harness. First connection, obviously, you see that the camera itself connects into this extension harness. Now, this extension harness has a couple of pigtails off both ends. Gives you lots of options in order to install this. And this is what we like about this kit. You can either make all your connections at the reverse light here, or you can make them back behind the radio. Now this end here that plugs into the camera itself has 3 wires, and the other end that connects into your aftermarket radio or whatever screen you're displaying also has 3 wires. Coconut gives you the option to either hook it up from one end or the other, or a combination depending on how you want this camera to function. The easiest option number 1 to power this camera would simply be to power it off of the reverse light, power and ground. That can be done by grabbing the power ground on this end that connects into the camera. This goes to the reverse light, power, and ground, and that's going to power the camera whenever that light is on. Additionally here, this purple is simply just a pass-through. It's what we call a reverse gear trigger wire, and that'll trigger the radio or screen to display that image as soon as you're backing up. This doesn't connect into the camera at all. This simply is just the pass-through as a convenience, and all you do is also tie that into the power wire of your reverse light. Now, if you do that function, you got to make sure you cap off this end so we don't have that reverse light power ground out in the dash at all. So you'd cap this end off. That's a really simple install, but the downside of that camera's only going to work when you're backing up. It won't work any other time. Our radio, for example, has the feature to use the camera anytime. And the benefit of that, in addition to just being reverse, is we can check what's behind us if we're towing or something like that. That's a convenience. But that configuration requires us to power the camera on accessory, or whenever the radio is on, the camera is going to be functional and available. The way that we'd wire that, option number 2, is what we're going to do today in our install, is instead of powering the camera on the reverse light, we're going to cap this end. We're going to make sure this doesn't ground out anywhere. This still needs to go to that positive wire of the reverse light, because we still need to tell the radio when we're backing up. We still like that automatic feature. And then on this end, we'll connect this power and ground to accessory power, and we're going to do that off the new radio harness. We're just going to rob accessory on the red wire and ground on the black wire. And then this end is our reverse gear trigger wire, which all it does will connect into the reverse gear trigger wire input of the radio, and this is again connected to the reverse light. This will tell the radio that we're backing up, so we still get that automatic switch as soon as we're putting it in reverse. So that's the way that we're going to wire our configuration. This RCA goes into the video input on the back of the radio. Comes with a coupler if you need it or not. The first step, what we need to do is get the OEM bezel and handle out of the tailgate. And then from there, we'll pull our wire through the tailgate underneath the truck. We got to run this wire up to the reverse light, positive wire for our trigger. And then the rest of this needs to go all the way along the frame rail, along the factory loom, up into the floor of the truck, into the cabin, into the radio cavity, where it's going to be connected to this aftermarket radio. Alright, so we got our tailgate ready to go. We do have a key cylinder, so we'll need to make sure we transfer this over to the new kit. Opening this up here, we do have some Torx screws here. So this is a T30 Torx. Let's go ahead and remove all these screws. This is going to give us access to pull out our tailgate handle. Now our tailgate has quite a few drains down below. There is the spare tire crank access hole where we could pull our power wire through there. That's an option, or we could just drop it down. We just don't want it pinched. That's the biggest thing. So we'll probably end up using one of the drains and using this access hole just to prevent the wire from getting kinked or anything like that. Go ahead and remove these rods. Just like that. Now these are 8mm bolts. There we are. So let's take this over to the bench and transfer over our key cylinder. Now I always like to grease these up too, just to ensure that there's a little bit of friction. Considering that this is an aftermarket kit, it's probably still not perfect compared to the OEM manufactured stuff. So that's it. We're done here. Let's grab this, head back to the truck, and get it installed. Much better. Okay, so at this point, we're done here. What we're going to do now is put our panel back on, reassemble the tailgate, and then we'll transition to working up underneath the truck. To pull our wire, we need to remember one wire to the reverse light for the trigger, and then the rest of that loom needs to go all the way forward towards the radio cavity. All reassembled, pulled our wire through the hole. Oh, butter smooth. Perfect. Alright, so we pulled out the tail light, and our purpose here is we need to connect our purple wire to the reverse gear trigger wire. So we want that radio to cycle over to reverse as soon as we're backing up automatically. Now I pulled our camera harness up underneath, up into this cavity. This is going to give us a little more protection from the elements here. Alright, so we have our extension harness. We're going to plug that in. Now remember, since we're not going to power the camera here, we're going to go ahead and cap these off, because we'll do that at accessory behind the radio. But we do need to connect our purple to our reverse light. Now our reverse light here is the very bottom bulb. Pull that out. So looking here, it's a little dusty on our part. Try not to touch the bulb. But it's the red with the blue stripe. That's going to be your reversed gear power wire for the reverse light. And we're going to use that. We'll tap our purple into that red wire. And again, we're going to insulate and cap these off with a bit of heat shrink. So we did a simple military splice here. Now again, if you're doing option number 1, you're just simply powering the camera off of the reverse light. You'd also connect your camera's red wire and black wire to the red and black wires of this harness, because that'll also power the camera. But we want use of our camera anytime, so we're not doing that here. So we're going to insulate our connection with a little bit of electrical tape. We'll rewrap this harness. We're going to put a piece of heat shrink on this connection just to prevent it from corroding. Get everything zip tied, and then we're now at that point to start pulling our wire along the frame rail. In the case of this truck, the main harness loom is actually on the passenger side. Oftentimes it's always on the driver's side, but this generation Tundra, at least this truck specifically, everything's on the passenger side, which is actually really convenient because the gas tank is out of the way. It's nice and open. It's a real easy run. Alright, so that's all done. I'm sorry, it's decided to start hailing outside here. Got everything zip tied, nice and clean, got everything wrapped up, re-insulated, put the bowl back in, and now, with that zip tie on, it's going to keep it from pulling out. We ran it down, we can continue from up underneath the truck. So let's get the tailgate reassembled, and we're done here at the back. Alright, so we're up underneath the truck. That's where it passes from the tailgate. We ran it through this channel. That's where it goes up into the reverse light cavity, right, for your tail light. Once we made those connections, which we already showed you, those come on down here. This is our extension harness, and we just zip tied it along the OEM loom all the way forward, along the OEM loom there, as you can see, all the way down, up and over the rear axle, along the factory wiring, up and around, cross member here, kept going down. We are moving down, all the way down. Nice thing is, there's no gas tank on this side. It's really easy to go. And kind of made it up to this point. Now there is our floor grommet. Now we got to get access to it from the top side. So what we're going to do is pull the carpet up. We're going to pull that grommet out. We're going to make a hole in that grommet to pass our wire through. And then we'll reseat that grommet to have a watertight seal. We'll get that grommet seated there. Put it under the carpet, up into the stereo cavity. All right, so we fished it just up underneath the carpet there. Kind of came out that hole, fished it up into the dash, into the stereo cavity. That's where we're gonna make our final connections. So we're back here in the truck. We've pulled our video cable up into the dash here. Just took our time and worked it up into the dash. Now obviously the radio is out, and we covered our radio install and how to disassemble this dash in great detail in the first video. So if you want to see that video, go ahead and check the description. We'll walk you through how to remove and replace for aftermarket radio in this generation Tundra. With this out and our cable in the dash, we're ready to start making our 3 wired connections and our video connection to the aftermarket radio. Now, on our aftermarket radio harness, when we built this harness for this radio install, we tapped into the red and the black wire of the radio harness. We just tied it in parallel, and that's going to power our camera. So red's accessory and black is ground. We're going to grab our red and our black wire, and we're going to crimp onto those two. Now this purple wire, remember that's reverse gear trigger wire. That is going to go to the radio's reverse trigger input. And in this case, on the back of the radio, it's a purple white. So we're going to make those 3 connections here real quick. Tie red together to accessory. It's called a crimp cap, goes over the top, and we'll crimp it down. Now the purple wire, remember, it's going to connect to the purple white wire of the radio. Let's grab our radio, start making the connections. Alright, so we've made all our connections. We're going to tuck our harnesses back into the dash here. Okay, at this point, let's do a quick test. Make sure everything's working before we snap it into place. Alright, so with the radio all back in, we need to wipe everything down, give it a good clean. But as for reassembly, that is done. Go ahead and put it in reverse. And there is our backup camera image. This actually looks great. Pull it out of reverse. And there we are. Now, again mentioned, if we hit the function button because we wired it on accessory, when not in reverse, we can still call upon it. So that's about it for this install. If you have any questions on what we did here, go ahead, post a comment below. And like mentioned, we did this full radio install, and if you want to see that video, we'll link it in the description at your convenience. Thanks again for watching. Be sure to hit the like button if you like what you saw, and don't forget to subscribe. We post great content on the channel all the time, and we'll see you in the next video.